The first plasma shot scorched the ceiling, and the nursery lights went red. 4 cat cubs burst across the steel floor, fur face ruffs flaring, eyes wide with panic. Security shouted commands that meant nothing to them. The cubs did not run toward the officers. They ran toward the sound, toward the threat, toward the place where someone might die. "Hold them," Chief Varin barked. "If they get loose, someone loses a throat." They were only 4 to 5 months old, rescued from a wrecked cargo pod. The council had stamped them unsafe to raise. Station Kestrel had stamped them quarantine problem. Nora stepped through the hatch anyway. She wore no armor, no baton, no rifle, just station coveralls and calm hands held open. A raider stood in the nursery doorway with a plasma pistol and a grin. "That's it," he laughed. "They sent a human mechanic." Nora did not look at him first. She looked at the cubs. Pearl crouched low, ready to leap. Lucy paced in a tight line, claws clicking. Kite stood over the smallest, Dusk, who trembled so hard her whiskers blurred. Nora lowered to their level. "Stop." It was not loud. It was not a threat. It was a promise. All 4 cubs froze. Varen's visor tilted. "How?" Nora kept her voice soft. "They are not disobedient. They are discerning." Behind her, the raider lifted his pistol again. "Move, human." Nora raised one finger without turning. "Wait." The cubs stayed still, bodies tight with effort, eyes locked on her hand. That was when the corridor understood the truth. The raider was not trapping the cubs in the nursery. The cubs were trapping the raider with Nora. Nora stood and finally faced him. "Put the weapon down. This is a juvenile ward." The raider snorted. "Or what? Your kittens will scratch me." Nora's gaze flicked to the sealed med cabinet behind him. Painkillers. Antivirals. The station was rationing after the last convoy failed. "You can leave with your ship and your life," Nora said. "Or you can stay and find out how fast 4 cubs can take your hands." The raider's grin widened. "You are bluffing." Nora lifted her palm, small and steady. Pearl's ears twitched. Lucy's paws shifted. Kite's shoulders rolled like a spring. Even Dusk lifted her head, fear sharpening into focus. Varin hissed, "Nora, do not." Nora whispered, "Circle." 4 shapes moved as one. They flowed into angles and blocked exits. Pearl sealed the door frame. Lucy snapped onto the raider's glove, twisting his wrist. Kite vaulted to the shelf beside the med cabinet and cut off his reach. Dusk hissed behind Nora, loud enough to split his attention. The raider fired once. The bolt hit the ceiling and showered sparks. He fired again, but Lucy yanked hard. The pistol clattered to the floor. In the same breath, Pearl slammed her shoulder into his shin. Kite struck from above. The raider went down, stunned by speed and surprise. No blood spilled. The cubs held him in place, teeth bared, waiting. Nora stepped forward, picked up the pistol, and slid it far away. Then she looked down at the raider. "You do not shoot inside a nursery." Security surged in and cuffed him. Varen's jaw was tight. "We had this contained." Nora's eyes stayed on the cubs. "Contained is not safe." The red lights faded back to white. The nursery hummed again. The station kept breathing. That night, Varin found Nora sitting on the floor of the pen, blanket across her legs. Pearl purred like a small engine. Lucy gnawed a strap like it owed her money. Kite watched the door. Dusk slept with her nose against Nora's wrist, finally unafraid. "You made them listen," Varin said. "They listened because I listened first," Nora replied. The bond had started in silence. A scorched pod. 4 starving cubs. A blanket that smelled like smoke and loss. Nora had opened the hatch expecting teeth. Instead, she had found Pearl pressed against her siblings, eyes hollow with hunger, and she had heard a sound so small it barely existed. A baby trying not to cry. Nora had sat down, offered water, and kept her hands gentle. The cubs had decided she was not a trap. For weeks, security tried shouting. The cubs answered with snarls and shadow. Then Nora sat, smiled once, and waited. One by one, the cubs came to her. 2 taps meant come. Palm up meant stop. A slow circle meant surround, not attack. It worked because the signals were not about power. They were about clarity. Then the mid-cycle rehook hit. The station went dark. Not a flicker. A full blackout that swallowed every corridor in one breath. Emergency strips along the floor ignited in thin red lines. Somewhere far away, metal groaned like a living thing. VRAN's comm crackled. All decks, report. Navigation answered, strained. Dock ring seals are failing. Someone is overriding lockouts. Nora's stomach dropped. The nursery raider had been a distraction. If that ring opens during drift, we shear, Nora said. Varin snapped, security to dock control. Nora was already moving. Pearl and Lucy ran at her heels. Kite moved like a shadow. Dusk stayed close, brave because the others were brave. Dock control was lit by emergency red. Raiders clustered at the console, working fast. One held a terrified tech by the collar, plasma muzzle pressed to his cheek. The lead raider sneered when he saw Nora. You again. Nora raised her hands. If you open that ring, you die too. The raider shrugged. Then we all die. The console beeped. Override at 60%. Varin lifted his rifle behind Nora. Give me a clear shot. No, Nora whispered. She looked at the hostage-taker, voice steady. Let him go. Take me instead. The raider laughed. Why would I? Because you want control, Nora said. And you do not have it. Nora lifted her palm. Stop. The cubs held, bodies vibrating with restraint. Her fingers made the smallest twist. Circle. Pearl slid left. Lucy went right. Kite climbed the wall brace and vanished above the console. Dusk hissed at Nora's boots, a sharp, bright distraction. The hostage-taker glanced down, annoyed. Kite dropped and struck his wrist. The muzzle jerked away from the tech's face. Pearl hit the knee. Lucy hooked claws into the access key lanyard and yanked. The key ripped free. The console screamed. The override stalled. Varin fired a stun pulse into the lead raider. He dropped. Nora said one word. Down. The cubs pinned arms and weapon hands without tearing skin. Security rushed in and finished it in seconds. The dock ring seals re-engaged with a deep, comforting thud. Air stayed inside the station. Stars stayed outside. The tech collapsed, shaking. Nora knelt beside him. Breathe. He gulped air and nodded, staring at the cubs. They saved us. Nora stroked Dusk's head. They held back. That is the hard part. A week later, the station tested them. Not with a cage and a baton. With an emergency drill. Maintenance filled a service corridor with harmless smoke and killed the lights. A crew volunteer lay behind a jammed panel and tapped twice, weak and scared. The officers waited for panic. Nora crouched at the smoke line with the cubs pressed against her legs. Dusk trembled, remembering red lights and boots. Nora touched her forehead to Dusk's fur face and breathed slow. With me, she whispered. 2 taps.
Come.
Dusk took one step into the smoke. Then another. Pearl went first, nose low, purring like she was mapping the air. Lucy zigzagged, impatient and bright. Kite moved last, silent, checking the rear like a professional. Nora stayed at the edge, hands visible, voice calm. Find. The cubs vanished into the haze. Then a soft chirp came through the smoke, a sound the cubs used only when they wanted Nora to follow. Nora stepped in and felt the station disappear around her. The smoke was warm and thick. The alarms were fake, but her body did not care. She moved anyway. Pearl appeared at a junction, eyes shining, and nudged her knee toward a sealed panel. Lucy squeezed under the gap and reappeared with the volunteer's glove in her mouth like proof. Kite sat at the corner, watching, guarding. Dusk stood closest to the jammed panel, pouring at it with careful determination. She was still trembling, but she did not flee. Nora knelt and worked the latch. The panel popped free. The volunteer coughed, then laughed in disbelief as 4 cubs pressed in, warm and alive, guiding him out with gentle nudges instead of bites. When they emerged, the watching officers were quiet. Varin cleared his throat. No injuries. No chaos. Nora stroked Dusk's head. She went first, she said softly. Dusk blinked up at her, then leaned into her hand as if she had finally accepted that bravery could be learned. That night, a council notice tried to reclassify the cubs as research property. Varin read it, then tore it down with one sentence to the commander. They saved a crewman today. They stay. When the denial came back, Varin looked at Nora and finally nodded toward the cubs. Soft voice, he said. Nora answered, sharp claws. The commander updated their tags that night. Not equipment. Crew. Emergency response. Security support. Under Nora's care. In the next cycle, the nursery lights were set to warm amber instead of harsh white. The station felt less like a cage. Nora sat by the glass and watched star rivers drift past. Pearl curled against her hip. Lucy climbed into her lap and claimed it like territory. Kite rested his chin on her boot, a silent guard. Dusk slept on the blanket, paws twitching, dreaming of a station that did not fear her. Nora sipped water and let peace settle in her chest. Not because danger was gone. Because trust had arrived and stayed. If this story hit you, tap like and subscribe to Survival Arena HFY. Comment your favorite moment, the first stop in the nursery, or the dock ring takedown in the dark.